Praise the Lord, everyone. Welcome to the Huddle. I'm your host, Walter Strong. If you're new here and you want to find your passion, unlock your potential, and discover God's purpose for your life, then I want to welcome you to the show and always encourage you to subscribe to this YouTube channel. This morning, as we continue with Black History Month, we're going to have a discussion on the history of Black fraternities. And as we begin this discussion, we have some great guests who are part of some great Black fraternities. And so we want to make sure that we're bringing you real content that is accurate and true to the history of our subject matter. And so as we begin to just welcome our guests and bring in our other guests coming on, I want to first welcome my special co-host, Anthony A. Smalls from Talking Sports Radio, also AKA Tony Love from ISO Radio, and a returning guest, Brother Gary Preston. And so, gentlemen, as I bring on Raymond, let me go ahead and let you introduce yourselves again to our viewers.
After you, Tony.
No, you're the alpha, bro. I would be completely
Founders first.
Out of place. I'll be out of place. I don't have no problem with that.
All right, everybody. I'm Gary Preston. I've been on the Huddle before. I had a great time. Thank you for bringing me back, Brother Walter. I am a proud member of Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, and it feels good to be an alpha man.
All right. Welcome. All right, so we got the founder. Who's next in line for introduction in terms of order of fraternities? Because we want to do this right. Okay.
Good morning. It's a pleasure. My name is Raymond Bennett. I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, founded in Bloomington, Indiana, on a cold day, January 5th, 1911.
All right. The CEO is back on the Huddle just in time. Thank you, sir, for being a returning guest. And again, our special co-host, Mr.
Yes,
A. Smalls. Go ahead and introduce yourself and the fraternity that you are a proud member of.
Well, my fraternity name is Anthony A. Smalls. This goes on my card. I think I'm the senior member here today. Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, Rowhead chapter. Member since 1983. 38 years on the books. University of Kansas. And the fraternity, of course, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, was founded at Howard University, November 17, 1911, on a cold and rainy night, Thurgood Hall.
All right. Well, gentlemen, I really appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your time, and even our young people in the background, we want to acknowledge you too as well. You're part of the Huddle. And so I want to first of all say thank you to Raymond, Bennett, and Tony for just the genesis of this discussion, which I believe started back in December of 2020. And we just kept on working with it. And then when it was time for Black History Month, you guys were willing just to help me in this partnership. So I want to first say thank you and acknowledge you guys, because this is a show topic that I wanted to make sure that it is true and it gives true honor to each of all fraternities. Because as I was sharing with you, gentlemen, when I was first thinking about this, my understanding of fraternities unfortunately came from the movies, School Days, Stomp the Yard, and we also talked about the Cosby Show in some ways and in the different world. So that I'm very limited in that standpoint, and I felt like I'm being robbed of the true history of what Black fraternities are about. And so I'm glad you guys were willing to come on to the show and to share with our viewers, young and old, about the history. So let me begin with the founder from Alpha Phi Alpha. Gary, first question is, what were some of the key factors that helped you decide on which fraternity that you wanted to be a part of?
So I was talking to Tony before we started. On my college campus, there wasn't much Black Greek life. As I started to do the research and explore, and I guess figured out like the people I aspired to, I was drawn to Alpha. And then I found out that one of my elementary school mentors was an Alpha. Mm-hmm. And there were certain things that clicked with me that kind of called me to Alpha, I would say. And then the legacy, like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was an Alpha. Excuse me, is an Alpha. So those things like kept me going, kept me like in the like quest for it.
Gotcha. And I in my research I noticed also Thurgood, the late Dr. Thurgood Marshall, from the Supreme Court Justice, and for all you power fans, Omar Hardwick. From my research, I've learned that is an Alpha Phi Alpha, and so I can truly see how in today's time, individual young Black men who are going to a university, that's going to be a great influence on them in their decision making. So let me transition to the CEO, Raymond, and let me pose that same question to you.
I think I'm the only one here probably from a historical Black college, Lincoln University. And when you talk about Thurgood Marshall, he was an Alpha and he pledged that new chapter in Lincoln University. And Lincoln University is affectionately known as the home. We call ourselves the home of the single letter chapters because all the chapters there, all the fraternity chapters are single letter. And that means so much of importance in the history of these fraternities. We have the Alphas are a new chapter. The Sigmas are mu chapter. The Qs are Beta chapter, which is the second chapter established. And the Kappas are Epsilon chapter, which we are considered the Star of the East. Our founding father, Elder Watson Diggs, traveled specifically from Indiana University to Lincoln University back in 1915 to bring the charter to our chapter. So that's a significant legacy. We are well equipped and well know so much of the legacy and the importance of what Lincoln University has played and what single letter chapters mean, and also what it means to be involved in the history of other chapters. At Lincoln University, we know the legacy and the history of all the other chapters and fraternities on our campus.
Okay, that's great to know. All right, and Tony,
yes,
same
sir.
question.
Great question, and a good point that Raymond made. Obviously, I think of the three here, I probably went the furthest to school. I went to the University of Kansas, and ironically, similar to what Raymond said, although all 8 of our organizations were not single letter organizations, on a campus like Kansas, 5 of our 8 were single letter chapters. And that's really rare with most white schools altogether. 5, let alone 2 or 3. But we had 5, including the AKAs, who their 4th chapter, their Delta chapter, was founded at KU. So we had that lot of, when you have that kind of history on a predominantly white campus, you have a lot of Greek history on a predominantly white campus. So we can certainly say from of course, the Kappas were Mu chapter, or the Maniac Muse, they call them. And Will Chamberlain pledged undergraduate, you'll learn that language later, meaning he pledged Mu chapter at the University of Kansas. So learning the history of the fraternities, coming from Brooklyn, New York, all the way to Kansas. And up until I got to KU, the only fraternity I had been in had been baseball teams. So, it was I won't go too deep right now, but certainly, as I agree with Raymond, getting to see the Greek life. Although I was at a predominantly white campus, having the historical chapters on my yard with that much history made fraternity life that much more important to me in my going forward as a college student.
Gotcha. And in my research, I learned that there's some of the notable members of today's time, Michael Jordan, Steve Harvey, right, which I can see kind of fits your personality.
Right, of course. Except I get all my guest names right, of course.
All right. And Mr. Terrence J., is that correct?
Yeah, Terrence is as well. When I came in, my mentors in the fraternity were like Vernon Jordan and Jesse Jackson. Those are the ones that caught me right away. Like, wow, I've met Jesse before. I've met Vernon before, politically not. As I wasn't a bro when I met them when I was younger. And of course, a horde of athletes from Too Tall Jones on down. And of course, one thing about Omega, we were heavily influenced in sports. So as you know me better now, me being the sports nut that I am, to keep hearing names pop up over and over again of Omegas in different sports certainly drew me to the fraternity also.
Gotcha. Raymond, what were some of the notable names that were very influential in your decision making? Because as I was doing my research, and help me if any corrections that need to be made, I saw names like Tavis Smiley, John Singleton, and Marvin Sapp from Commission.
Right. We also had Arthur Ashe, the late Johnny Cochran, Reginald Lewis, Chappie James. Those are people. Thomas Bradley, mayor of Los Angeles, and we pride ourselves being involved in terms of sports. We have Wilt Chamberlain, oh my God, Oscar Robertson, possibly two of the greatest, Bill Russell. So those Penny Hardaway, the list goes on in terms of athletes who have done some amazing things. But one of the things that we've always strived for in terms of this, our motto is achievement in every field of human endeavor. So we strive for perfection, and we put forth a great effort. And we know what it is to be a Kappa man. Rat tat those pots and pans. Going to be a Kappa man. Pressure, can't stand it.
All right now. All right.
Man, this is great. I appreciate you, brothers.
Amen. Hey, and to my YouTube viewers, we certainly don't want to forget you as you're tuning in. Just let us know where you're watching us from. Just drop in the comment section where you're watching us from, and just do me a favor, share this live stream to your favorite social media channel, to your friend who's a part of your fraternity, because we want to make sure that this live stream goes out and touches as many people that we can, to encourage you during this Black History Month, because we want to give honor, because we realize that this may not be a discussion that may come up in unfortunately, our churches. This may not be something that may comes up in our schools. And so we want to use this platform to be able to talk about the history of Black fraternities. And so let me segue to my next question, which is, and I'll start with you again, Gary. What were some of the misconceptions at the time you were hearing prior to you making your decision about Black fraternities, and how were you able to kind of work through those? Because today we're still hearing some of these same misconceptions about fraternities and sororities.
So, one big misconception about, I would say, a lot of fraternities is that we're just party boys, and all we're here is to party, to drink, to do all these I would say leisurely things. But like through seeking, through looking, through researching, through meeting actual brothers, you get to see the work that these fraternities do. All of us in the D9 or the Black Greek letter organizations, we are committed to our community. We build, we teach, we help, we learn, and we give back. Like, I don't know, not a Black Greek man that's not involved in the betterment of their community. And that's what really captivated me.
Okay. Raymond, let me throw that same question out to you.
I think going to Lincoln University, it was just, I look at some of the brothers that were on that campus, it was just a wealth of good men. And Lincoln has a legacy, a long, distinguished legacy of people who have come to Lincoln University. You know, Cab Calloway was at Lincoln University. Thurgood Marshall, like I said, Langston Hughes. Langston Hughes is an Omega. He pledged at Lincoln University. We had Walter Bond. But in terms of men, when you go to Lincoln University and you step on that campus and you realize that it's a rich history. So the selection process is a great process, because you have an opportunity to choose from all four organizations, and they will seek you out as long as you are a person with high character, high morals, and standards. It's not like you're joining a gang. It's not a free for all. There's a phrase that we have, and everybody has. Many are called, but few are chosen.
Right.
You know, a lot of people seek, they have the desire. You have to have a person of good moral character. You have to be involved in other organizations before you decide to pledge. You have to also have to have the GPA. It's not like you have a 1.1 and say, I'm going to join the Alphas, the Kappas, the Qs, or the Sigmas. No, you have to do that. And while you're online, you have to maintain, because the work starts those 4 to 6 weeks or whatever amount of time that you're online, which is pledging, by the way. Pledging.
Okay.
It's you have a begin date and an end date, but your work starts. Here's the thing that people fail to realize. Once an organization selects you, they're selecting you because they want you. They see something in you, that you're a diamond that needs to be polished. There's some rough edges about you, that you might not know discipline and structure. You might not know what brotherhood is. So they take you in and they mold you. And then when you are finished and when you are completed with your process and they send you out into the world, you have some things that you need to work on, but you're a fine-tuned, well-organized machine. Out of the night that covers me, black as a pit from pole to pole.
I
think
think
would
be. You know your process when you start reciting poems.
All right now, amen.
And so we basically all have the same thing, man. I tell people all the time, I love the Alphas, I love the Qs, I love the Sigmas, I love all of them because, like Brother Gary said, we are involved in our communities. We put all those differences. Yeah, we go to parties, we step, we chant, but we also collect money. We also responsible behind the scenes. In terms of what happened down in Georgia, it would not have happened without D9 coming together.
D9.
D9.
That's right.
Okay, now, all right. So, Tony, let me throw that same question to you. What were some of the misconceptions as you were making your decision to join, be a part of a fraternity?
But yeah, the first conception is that everybody thinks that, especially my organization, that it's nothing but a party organization. All I tell people is that we're not a party organization. We just party hard when we party. But those same parties pay for scholarships. Those same parties pay for programs. They pay for food. They take care of people that need to be nourished. They pay for books, the kids that don't have any. Those very same parties, and that's not just my organization, these two gentlemen as well. Those same parties, when you see us stepping, hopping, humping the floor and everything else we did back in the days, when we counted the money, that money all went to good causes. And I had to weed myself through the misconceptions. I did have one guy I grew up with that was a Q before me. His name was Irv Robeson from Brownsville. And so I had a little sneak peek of the Qs, but only in a party setting. And then when I got to KU, I was playing baseball. And one of my best friends, one thing KU had was something called Greek Week. And it wasn't for just the black organization, it was for all the organizations. Now, on KU's campus, this is how they choose. We use work pledgees. They use their new house members, people that are going to live in the house and take care of it, things like that. But the black fraternities at that time chose to be a part of the Greek Week. So all 4 organizations at KU had what they called, I don't know if y'all call it the smoker, but we called it smokers. And the smoker had nothing to do with smoking. This is how you met the new potential men that want to be in your fraternity. And my best friend at the time played baseball. His name was Liddell George. We went to Greek Week, and people thought me and Liddell were going to the Alpha meeting. That's how close Liddell. They said, "Oh, those two are out there baseball playing. What else would they play? You know, just astute guys, quiet, laid back." And when we got to Greek Week, right before Liddell made the right to the Alpha room, I made the left to the Q room. And I probably shocked everybody at KU because Tony stepped in the wrong room. I was like, no, y'all don't know that side of me yet. So when I got into the Omega room, even the bros was like, yeah, the Alpha meeting is down the hall. I was like, nah, brother, I'm here to learn more about Omega. And as Raymond said, it's just getting past the misconception. The brothers accepted me, and thinking I'll end it on this. The parties and everything that goes on. One of the things the brothers asked me a question, tell us something about you that nobody would know. that would make, that nobody would know that we would have to know before you got on what we call online.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I don't drink alcohol. And everybody looked at each other like, nobody ever said these words, but he ain't gonna make it, right? And here I am 38 years later. But at that moment, I don't drink alcohol, and fraternity life, and not just black fraternities. We don't drink nearly as hard as the white fraternities. I'm gonna tell you right now. But going to any fraternity and saying I don't drink anything, that membership is already in doubt.
Shout out to the oil.
Exactly.
It's nothing but love. Shout out to the oil.
So the misconception that you can't be a member without drinking and smoking and partying, and I'm a living misconception of that, because here I am.
Okay.
And but if you're true to yourself and you tell the truth from the beginning, I ain't gonna say it was a little different, because everybody, even the bros that I wasn't even a bro yet, told the other bros he doesn't drink.
Gotcha.
It's like a Muslim saying I don't eat pork. Said in the beginning. Now, you may eat 15 hamburgers all beef because you don't eat pork. Don't get me wrong now. They'll all be beef.
Right. Exactly.
Good experience.
Okay. Hey, if you're getting great value out of this wonderful discussion that we're having on the history of black fraternities, please do me a great favor and just drop down in the comments section and do hashtag adding value. And I want to give a special shout out to Brother Robert from Arizona, Brother Raymond from Baltimore, Maryland, from Real Stories, Real People. I want to thank you for joining. And those of you who are also watching me on YouTube, if you are a part of a black fraternity, just put down in the comments section what fraternity that you are a part of, and just shout out, one thing about your fraternity that has been a great benefit to you in the comments section for you. And so, Gary, as we transition to this next question 3, since being a part of your fraternity, what have been some of the lifelong benefits that you have been enjoying, and how are those benefits can be attractive to new young individuals that are going to college for the first time, especially in this COVID era that we're in?
So I'm an only child, so I don't have any brothers or sisters. Like what this brotherhood provides is brotherhood. It's something I experienced professionally. It's something I experienced socially. It's a great feeling when you walk into the room and you can recognize some kind of insignia from one of your brothers who you don't know, or you can recognize another organization within the D9 that you don't know, and that commonality, like, breeds like a initial bond and an initial kind of connection. Because if I can look, I've been in airports in Alabama and randomly get stopped, and I'm at a bar having a beer with a guy I never met who's an Alpha, who's a Kappa, who's an Omega man. Like, it's just so cool. Professionally, I have been in the good graces of executives who have been in different Greek letter organizations, and we've been able to elevate our conversations solely because of that.
Gotcha. Raymond, let me hand off that same question to you in terms of some of the lifelong benefits that you have been able to enjoy in your life, and how it can be an encouragement to young men today as they are making that decision.
I think one of the things is, like the previous brother said, I'm an only child. So
didn't know that about you. Okay.
Yeah, I'm an only child. So when I am involved or part of an organization or with members, it's the bond is something special to me. I take friendship and loyalty seriously. And so it is like Gary said, when you're able to travel around this country and around the world, and you're in the airport or you're traveling on a bus and you see somebody and they recognize you and you recognize them, there is nothing greater in the world. Because as Black men, a lot of times when we're in these organizations, we need each other, we lean on each other, and that's our source of our strength. So you could only imagine when we step out into the workforce, and when you look and there's few and far of Black people, especially Black men in between. I've been in places where, in rooms and conferences where there's been 300 people, and the only person across the room might have been an alpha. And then we get to talking, they'll be like, whoo. Or it might be a Sigma or a Q. And I'll tell you about my experience. I went to go into Lincoln University. We have, there's a group of 10 of us that we text each other every single day. We greet each other, good morning and peace and blessings. 2 of them are Sigmas, 1 is an Alpha, 2 of them are Qs, and 3 of us are Kappas. And we text each other, we check on each other, we holler at each other, know each other's birthdays, we chop it up, we bust it out. And we were, because our policy and our philosophy was, we were boys before our organizations, and we remained that way almost 40 years later.
Gotcha. Tony, some of the lifelong benefits that your fraternity has really played a role in forming you in being the person we know as Tony Love.
Well, ironically, you're not going to believe this, but I have a half brother, but I didn't know him until he's 15 years old. So not knowing him means I was raised as an only child. He was an outside child from my father, but I never lived with a brother or sister in my life.
Okay.
So you got really 3 only children here, because I didn't know anything about having a brother or sister, and I never lived with one, even my half brother, who I met years later. I learned the benefits of the brotherhood, especially for me, because changing from a environment of Brownsville, Brooklyn in the 70s to going to Kansas. I don't know if any of you have ever been in Kansas, but your imagination of Kansas should be enough to imagine what the transitional process was for me. So as an 18-year-old kid transitioning from just everything wrong in life, Brownsville, to a new environment in life like KU, great experience, because you're kind of protected the first year because you're a freshman on a campus, but at some point you start developing your own personality. And I became friends with the Brothers of Omega my second year, and I needed that friendship, because I was teetering on whether KU was for me. At that point I was still kind of by myself. You guys don't know that side of me yet, because you got to meet me as I was all grown up. But I was kind of introverted because I had a little conflict with myself, because I played baseball where everybody else played basketball and football. So most of my friends were white, and I don't care about color, just being honest. But I reached out to the Brothers of Omega, and they got to know me and my personality, and then the Qs, by getting to know me, found out about my DJ stuff. And before I was a bro, I became a DJ at the college campus at KU. And the first live party I did, thanks to the Brothers of Omega, I never needed a friend ever again. And our motto is friendship is essential to the soul. And Lord knows the benefits of the fraternity in terms of my DJ life, events that I've done over the years, not just in New York, but all over the country. People that I've met in the business, like you said, like a Steve Harvey, Ricky Smiley, people that allow me to, we all got to know each other in this business we call radio entertainment. Definitely it has been a fraternity within a fraternity, because for some reason the bros and radio seem to go together. I don't know why that is, but there's several of us. Doug Banks' morning show, Brother Banks. All of us happen to be bros, and it's been a great door opener at times. And I agree with Raymond. When I came to New York, my first gig in New York, where I wanted to let people know I was ready to come out, was given to me by a Sigma. A Sigma gave me a chance to DJ his party, and the rest was history. So while we are internal with our Greek letters, these letters are intercommunicating. When I reckon, like he said, if I was in the airport and I see Alpha, that's just like seeing a bruh. That's when you're traveling by yourself or seeing a Kappa.
Yep.
And you sit in the corner by yourself. That's like seeing a brother from your chapter. Like, oh, you're no longer by yourself. You're no longer by yourself. So it does do that. It has always done that.
Wow, that's great. That's great. To my YouTube family who's watching me, if you're watching me and you are part of a Black fraternity, just drop down in the comment section and shout out your fraternity and shout out one life benefit you're enjoying because of being a part of that benefit of that fraternity. And Raymond, I jotted down in some of my notes and preparing for this discussion. Some lifelong benefits that I see here are lifelong friendship, community building, leadership training, in terms of my research. And I got to give a shout out to my wife because she came up with this question. We're becoming more aware of systemic racism and the ceiling that unfortunately Black men have to deal with in corporate America, and it discourages them sometimes, and they end up having to leave. How has Black fraternities been able to play a role in helping, regardless of what fraternity you're a part of, to be able to deal with that?
Okay.
I think he said Raymond, if I'm not mistaken.
Raymond.
You say,
I'm sorry.
okay. No problem. I think when you look at the reason behind these organizations were founded, the Alphas were founded on Cornell University. And I think the majority of these, and the Kappas were founded on Bloomington, Indiana. So you could imagine 10 Black men in the Midwest in 1911. So put in those environments, we've always been dealing with adversity from the beginning. So no matter what organization that you pledge, being a Black man in America has always been, you've always been up against the wall. So we've always had to endure. Yes, you might have the love and the friendship of your chapter, but we as Black men in America have always had to deal with some things. So the inception of that was because a lot of white organizations would not allow us to join their organizations. So we founded our own. It's just like the concept, well, you know what? I can't stay at this hotel. Well, I'm going to make my own hotel. So we established those organizations to help us. So it's just not like what has happened now because of social media and a lot of other things. People think that we've been in existence. It's like, no, we've been doing this for almost 100 and something years. A lot of these organizations are teetering on 100 years plus. So
10,
yeah. So we've been doing this.
115 and
Exactly. Yeah. So we've been doing this, as well as the female organizations going unnoticed, but a lot of people behind the scenes of a lot of our great leaders, being when you look at fighting the just cause, Johnny Cochran has been doing that since his inception. Our organization just recently lost John Chaney, and who fought greater in basketball for the rights on Proposition 48 for all ball players than John Chaney. So these are some of the men that have been doing some stuff in our community. Thurgood Marshall, in terms of battling with Brown versus the Board of Education. All of those other things that Kwame Nkrumah, one of the presidents of Nigeria. So we have a long history, an illustrious history of men battling. You cannot talk about the Harlem Renaissance without talking about Langston Hughes. And Langston Hughes is from Lincoln University. The library is named after him. So to be able to go into that library and pick up and read some of the information that he walked the same institution that I did. And so I was fortunate. And to also understand that the Schaumburg historical up in Harlem is a Kappa. So when you go to that Schaumburg Museum, Arturo Schaumburg was one who established that. So we've always fought the fight. It's just now sometimes people they've discovered that we exist, but we've existed for a long time.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Good point.
Gary, let me pass that question over to you.
So the brother Raymond kind of like encapsulated everything. Like the reality is that wherever injustice was, wherever there was a feeling of oppression, we were there in the midst of it. So if you talk about the civil rights movement, you can't talk about the civil rights movement without Dr. King. He was an Alpha. Jesse Jackson was there. Hosea Williams was there. It's a litany of people who had a common thought, who had a common goal that belonged to all of our organizations. So, like when dealing with like the problem of systemic racism now, we look to the Ben Crumps. And if I'm not mistaken, he's an Omega man.
Omega, I got a picture with him. Yeah, he's a bro.
And one of his key, I would say, allies, her name is Heather Palmore. She's an AKA. And her mother gave me my first job in high school. So there's always been a sense of like of the willingness to fight. We look at Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris. She's a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So we are everywhere. When people don't see us, we see us. We know, and we do the work.
Gotcha. And to my sisters out there, March is Women's Month, so we will be doing the history of Black fraternities, Black sororities for women in the month of March. So we haven't forgot about you, our sisters. And those of you who are watching me on YouTube, my sisters, just drop down in the comment section and share your sorority that you are a part of and just what benefit it has played in your life. And so, Tony, let me pass that same question over to you.
Brother Raymond and Brother Gary said it best. We've been involved in civil rights and the rights of our people pretty much from the beginning. First, creating rights just for us to even exist. You go back to the history of Alphas, Kappas, and Qs. But then once we became established as organizations, as Brother Gary said, you get into the civil rights movement. Somebody like you, Walter, like we've all seen the March in Washington in 1962 with Dr. King. But if you start looking, now that you've spoken to us today, if you start looking at some of the banners, and I really not because it means the naked eye. I call it the naked eyeball. You would never notice the banners; they're just there. This organization is here. That organization is there, and then I had to learn as I looked at some of these black and whites. The Alphas were big there, but the Kappas were there. The Qs were there. We had our banners there. And I tell people from the March in Washington to the Million Man March, we were there. Big banners. And the day that Dr. King died, ironically, his death, he was surrounded by not every, because not the elders, but he was surrounded by a Kappa, a Q, and an Alpha. How ironic could that be? That goes to show you in the biggest planning meeting of our existence at the time, we were all in the room with Dr. King. The famous picture of Malcolm X when he met with the governor of New York, and Malcolm was having at that time some problems with the Muslims. Remember, he had that big fallout for a little while with the Nation of Islam. They eventually worked itself out, but there was a moment where Malcolm was kind of making that transition, and he wasn't getting the security from, I guess now they're known as the Foot of Islam, right? I'm not saying it correct, but there was a time when Malcolm wasn't getting the security team that he was looking for. He took 10 brothers of Omega. There's a famous picture of them being surrounded by the brothers of Omega. And people say, where'd this picture come from? Why are there all these Qs and Malcolm X who has nothing to do with us? And you really had to dig deep to find out, why were all those Qs there? So the point being, we have been a part of the movements, no matter which one of these organizations you're in. We have been a part of the movements to make lives better for Black men and women from the minute the inception of our organizations to when we peaked, whether it was segregation and everything else. We've been there. I remember the story I learned in Kansas about the Kappas during the time of segregation. Remember that board of education versus Topeka. Where's Topeka?
Kansas.
Right. So I learned the Qs hadn't been founded on my yard yet, but the Kappas were there. And they're very proud to tell you what the Kappas did out there to make sure kids could go to school. You know, and I was like, wow, I never thought things you never would have thought. We were getting up from the Topeka Bros, me and the Kappas. Manhattan brothers. Manhattan is K-State. So they call them Manhattan, Kansas. The Lawrence, Kansas brothers and the Kansas City brothers. And when I use the word brothers, I mean Kappa brothers. Making sure that kids can go to school without being harmed. There's no history. There's no history book to tell you that. But that was our work anyway. I don't know how many homeless Raymond is fed, or if Gary, you've been involved with your programs when you feed the homeless and give out. It's not recorded in the history books, but we do it anyway. You know, there's no history to tell you. It's our history. We know it. But I always bring up that board education because it happened right in my state. And when I learned the history of Kappa Alpha Psi in Kansas, whole new respect for them. We had never thought to make the tie between what were the black organizations doing in Kansas at the time when they were having this big fight at the Board of Education in Topeka, Kansas. Phenomenal stories that we've always been a part of civil rights and civil movements.
Gotcha. Hey, if you're getting great value out of this discussion, which I know you are, just drop down in the comment section and type in hashtag adding value. And I just want to make a special request of you. We're at 94 subscribers right now, and our goal is to get our first milestone of 100. So if you've been watching this YouTube channel and it's been encouraging you to find your passion, unlock your potential, and discover God's purpose for your life, and if we've been true to helping you do that, we want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel if you have not yet, because we want to hit that first milestone. And after that, we're going to go on to bigger and better things. And so as we bring this great discussion to a conclusion, I wish we could go for another hour, but we want to be respectful to our guest time. Gary, here is the scenario. You are at a university of young men who are considering to go to college, and they're looking to you for advice of not only on HBCU colleges, but they want to know about Black fraternities. Give us your pitch on how you would encourage them, or whether if it's your fraternity or one of these other great fraternities that we've learned about today.
Okay, so it all starts with the history of us, not the fraternity, but as Black people. Look through the history books of the great leaders, the great men, the great women, who all played a part in making this a better place for all of us, and see where they aligned themselves. That is a telltale. It's no coincidence that we belong to these organizations. It's no coincidence that we attended these universities. I always say to my wife, if I would have known what I knew now about corporate America, I would have went to HBCU, because I'm never surrounded around the people that look like me, think like me, have had common experiences like me. And the other brothers may be able to attest to this as well. When I tell people I'm in a fraternity and we still meet, we're still active in the community, we still build, they look at me like I'm crazy, unless they're Black. But I said all that to say, like, the work continues. It's not something you do at a party when you stroll. It's not something you do when you're online. It's not something you do to pass the time by. It's a lifelong commitment. And you have to understand what you stand for, where you want to go, and which organization can push you towards that.
Okay. Raymond, let me come over to you.
Everything that Brother Gary said is on point. When addressing young men, I think it's important, it's imperative that you understand the history of Black men in America. You understand your significance. You understand that as you live, you are making history in the moment. Power yields nothing without a struggle. Our people have been fighting the good fight. We are the fabric of America. You take away Black people from America, that's like taking sugar and spice away from your meal. One of the things I always tell people, if you ever in your life get a chance, go to a homecoming of a Black university. It's a homecoming, it's a gathering, it's a fashion show, it's donations, it's love, it's a love fest. I mean, so when you come to Lincoln University and it's homecoming, we don't care where you are, where you're from, Greek, non-Greek, it doesn't even matter. You come on that campus, we feed you, we hug you, we love you. If you need gas in your car to get back home, we do all of that. And that's all speaks to from where we come from. We all, once we realize that how difficult it is sometimes for Black people to get to a college, to attend college, to finish college, that's important within itself. So when we get together and you see what we're doing, we're telling we're writing history in the moment. And nothing could be more relevant than this year. In this moment in time, and throughout this pandemic, for going on almost a year now, there's been a lot of things that's been going on behind the scenes to push this country forward. And we're always in the forefront, these D9 organizations working to achieve greatness.
All right now. Tony?
Yes, sir.
I'll pass it over to you with that same question.
Yeah, Raymond's story is kind of encompasses everything, man. If you I didn't get a chance to go. I just didn't get a chance. I didn't choose to go to an HBCU, but the experience, the love that I have experienced at several homecomings and on HBCU campuses, from Howard to Morgan to North Carolina A&T. I've been to all their homecomings. That love is man, it's an unforgettable love. Remember, like Raymond said, there was a brother once at a gas station. He said, look, he went and he had a gas card. Back in the old days, you didn't have to use your Visa MasterCard. Every gas station had their own gas card. Yeah,
I remember that, right?
Everybody going to New York. I never forget it, brother. So who was headed down 95? We were in DC. He said, I'm giving away 20. No, I don't forgot the price. He said, pull up. Like, once you hang up the gas thing, the gas will stop.
Yes.
So he said, as long as I got it off the hook, he said, I'm getting about 10 cars. And he put gas in people's car. And when the next car pulled up, he said, my treat, bro, it's my treat. That happened right in front of my eyes. I always tell new members, people don't want to be like, we know all the great work these organizations do, but I always told pledgees or potential pledgees, don't be ashamed to say the Kappa Cane appealed to me, or the Alpha said, ice, ice, baby, too cold, you know, or saying you always wanted to bark like an Omega, bruh. Don't be ashamed that say that was part of something that drew me in, because that's going to be, if that's the organization you choose, that's going to be part of you for the rest of your life. So as much as all of us are going to do the work, like Brother Gary said, we're all going to do the work. We're not looking for perfect pledges. We're looking for brothers. Pledging is really more fun for us than it is for you. It's just fun for a little while. You think it's hard? But we are not looking for perfect pledge. In fact, a perfect pledge is an annoying dude. I tell people that a perfect
pledge, are we?
Right. A perfect pledge is one annoying guy, because we can't find nothing wrong with you. You ain't no fun. I really don't want to see you. But I'm looking for pledgees. I'm looking for brothers. And that's what it's all about. And like Raymond said, the love that you can't even express it if you haven't experienced it. We can only tell you about it. The movies have not really found a way to show that yet. I'll say that all the little Greek movies out there, they haven't shown the bonds and love that have gone on between us at these campuses. I haven't seen that movie yet. You know, they always show that edgy, negative, you know, or whether it be the fraternities rhubarbing at step shows, that exists too. Don't get me wrong, that exists too. But there's more to it than that. And I definitely say that's something that I cannot replace in my life. And I just want to end with Raymond and I now have known each other a couple of years now.
Mm-hmm.
It's only inevitable that a Cap and Q that grew up blocks away from each other, that we always say, that knew all the same people, yet we didn't know each other from Brooklyn. We met each other years and years and years and years later, only to find out, as I say, all our friends kept us away from each other. I've come to the conclusion that our friends, there were so many friends between me and him that we never got to each other, because later on in life, we found out we know the same people. And that when you know good people, Raymond and I always joke, if I don't know nobody that don't know you, forget about blood, but if I don't know nobody that don't know you, and we grew up in the same era, there's a problem with you. So simple as that. So the fraternities only really encompass that even more, that if I say to Raymond, I pledged 83, he should be able to look on his yard. I think I told you I know Buzz, for example.
Yeah.
Right. So I just by saying I knew one brother in his yard, I should be able to say that. I know Buzz. I know eons of Kappas that know Raymond now. So yeah, it's that kind of bond. It really is that kind of bond.
Yeah.
Could I just say one thing?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
One thing too, and to show you how it is. My daughter, a couple of years ago, I'm driving her to Lincoln University. She says to me, when I get to college, I don't want to join no organization that I'm going to have to be dedicated the rest of my life to. I'm not pledging anything. Okay. She gets there the first year, she knocks out her books. The second year, she's like, I don't know if Lincoln University's for me. I think I want to leave. So it was so funny. I took her to one of the Deltas that I knew, Tracy Tucker. And I said, Tracy, talk to us. So Tracy said this. She said, you'll never get this experience to be on the HBCU again. She said, you could go to Georgetown, you could go to Temple, you could go to all these other universities, but take it and believe. So she fast forwards and she says, Daddy, I want to pledge your organization. I said, which one? She says, it's so embedded in your mind when they start, when you could really train a person's mind. She says, I can't tell you. I said, wait a minute. You can't tell me? She says, so they had already gotten to her. She couldn't talk. She couldn't tell me.
University was processed. Right?
Yeah. So I was messing with her one day. So I happened to send a picture of some AKs down in, I think, Virginia. And I said, so this is what you want to be? She said, how'd you know? Who told you? Who told you I wanted to be? And so when she went online, it was just like a love fest. People from all over, because that was my legacy. And they helped her. The AKs embraced her. And now she's the president of her chapter at Lincoln University, getting ready to do some amazing things down there.
Wow.
But it just speaks to the relationship that she's like I said to her before, it used to be, well, you know what, Raymond's your dad. Now it's like, nah, Facunda's your daughter. So she gets top billing now. I'm the backup singer.
Right?
You the backup singer.
So if I can
ahead,
say two short things. One,
yes, go ahead.
My wife is in Black Greek, but she's enamored by it because of the way that the AKs embrace her. So because of me, and I'm like, honey, that's what we do. Now, I have not met these brothers ever before, but I'll say this: if they need me, they can reach out to me because we have a commonality other than Elder Strong, but we have a connection and an understanding of our walks and our lives. So, brothers, if you need anything, reach out. I'm here.
So that's how we base our lives on.
Amen.
Tony, I'll give you the final word before we close out. No, I'm gonna go back to this. I'm gonna give you one final. Then we're gonna give our CEO one final word.
That's fine. I recall a friend of mine's. This is a story that Raymond. So I'll close with my story. A lot of things are being said in this sentence. As calm as I'm going to say it, everybody's going to know what I mean. So a brother saw me online, and he had a son years later, and his son pledged at Alpha chapter at Howard University. So right before his son pledged, we told his son some of the stories of what his father had seen me get online and what his father may have had experienced with me. I'm cutting words out. But I promised his son that if he pledged at Alpha chapter, even though I was in the frat a long time about it, I would come see him to exchange that same pleasantry. and everybody found out that his son was online. Now, mine, I'm a senior member of the fraternity now, you know, and a boss list in a chapter. I popped up at one of his events, and the look on his face made pledging Omega worth it. It's that one moment because he couldn't imagine, like, it's like 50 Alpha chapter bros. Is that Tony? I said, I told you I'm gonna get what you know. So it's an experience that cannot be beat. And it's funny because we get together every week, Walter, and you hear different organizations as we meet every week, especially on my show, but even on Walter's show, on Raymond's show. You hear we bring on cues and we'll say who's in the house, and you met what's the name, Ty Forte, who was an Alpha. So many of us are in these organizations for life. And I'll end with, I took my stepson Daryl to a Nets game when the Nets were really bad out in Jersey. And really bad. They got the tickets like $11, right? So
yeah, you can't get tickets like that now.
Right, you can do that now. And Shaq had just gotten to Miami, right? That year they won the championship, they hadn't won it yet. That's how long ago this was. And I walked downstairs. I had a jacket on. I walked downstairs to watch them warm up because it was early. I wasn't working for the Nets, anything. I was just there like a fan. And Shaq saw the jacket he saw was a father. He saw Daryl with me. He saw I had my son because I wanted Daryl to meet him, not thinking that Shaq instead was looking at me because of my frat jacket.
Yes.
He comes over, he's warming up, and he walks off the court. Daryl's the biggest thing of his life. And I go, hey, Shaq, I want you to meet my son. And Daryl's my stepson. And in the process, Shaq gives me the grip in front of the entire place. You know, everybody's like, oh, Shaq must know him. I know Shaq before. In fact, if anybody knows me as a brother, had Shaq not did that day, I probably wouldn't have gave him the grip at that. But I'm on the spot now, you know. So I know he's a brother, so I can't do him wrong. But the ironic part of that whole moment, he meets Daryl. We walk away, and Alonzo Mourning goes, "Oh, I don't get no love." I had to turn back around because the crowd was like, "Sir, sir, 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 sir." I'm like, what? And I turn around, Alonzo's standing like this. And I'm like, oh, like Zosa, bro, it just crossed. I was like, oh, and he's looking at me like I owe him, but they see me as because they can see I was a father. And it wasn't because they knew me, because like, oh, Dad wants Shaq's grip, but he don't want Zoe's grip. So now I gotta walk back downstairs. And Daryl, my son, is like, this can't be happening. And I don't know nobody. I don't know nobody. I'm not in the NBA yet. I don't know nobody. And I gotta walk back downstairs and give Zoe some love. That's what the frat is.
Yeah.
That's powerful. That is powerful. Mr. CEO, I'm going to give you the final words, and we're going to bring this great discussion not to a close, but to a to be continued, because that's how good this is.
I want to thank you for putting this together. I want to thank Brother Gary for being on with us. Tony, much love to you. Walter, much love to you. And I always say this in closing, and this has been my mantra. When a group of people come together collectively to do something positive, there is no force on this earth that can stop it. God bless you, each and every one of you.
All right.
Thank you, brother.
All right. To my guests that are on YouTube, thank you again for just watching this huddle. Question of the day. And this question of the day is even for those of you who are going to watch the replay, because we're really going to push that this live stream get pushed out to as many Black fraternities, brothers that are on watching this and who will watch the replay. What is one lifelong benefit your fraternity has really played in a big role in your life? So we want you to put that in the comments section. And so again, we want to thank you. If this live stream has truly added value to your life, we want to encourage you to click the like button, again, share, and again, help us get to 100 subscribers to our first milestone, so that we can continue to grow the huddle and continue to grow this YouTube channel. And so I'm Walter Strong. Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that will help you to prevail. So we want to thank you again for joining us on the huddle. Let me get the closeout music. All right, here we go. Thank you again, brothers. Stay right on after the closeout is concluded.